It's Wednesday night, and we're live from Oakdale, Washington, in the Educated Touch studio. Welcome to Ethics Outside the Box, with your host, Nathan Nordstrom. Special guests include David Otto and you. Here he is, Nathan Nordstrom.
We are live on Facebook. We are having a bad hair day. We are also enjoying ourselves connecting about ethics and about the benefits of massage therapists having ethics. We have gone all the way through the standard or the code of ethics. Now we're on standard of practice. Wow, my tongue is not quite working right today, so we will try our best not to screw up too much. But we are on standard number 3. But my guest today is a returning guest that I'm very happy to have whenever I get to have Mr. David Otto with me. David is not only a friend and colleague, David is a master of a lot of wonderful things that I respect. Master of service. He helps out whenever he can, and I always appreciate that. And he's got massive skill there. A master of connection. He likes people and knowing and working with people. And then I also have to say he is a master at chair massage and at connecting with really the industry and kind of drawing people together. So, Mr. David Otto, how are you, my friend?
Hi, we're on double screen, huh? That's a very interesting process. I'm going to shut off my Facebook feed because I think it's interrupting, so I can concentrate. I'm doing well, thank you.
You're seeing
doing
a couple
well.
of us?
Yes, I just closed a couple of us on there, so unfortunately I won't be able to monitor the questions right now. Maybe you will as we get into the discussion. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, no, not a problem. You're always a joy to be able to hang out with. So last time I think we hung out, last time we hung out in March for Ethics Outside the Box, we were talking about the Code of Ethics, and we really, I really enjoyed it. I think we have really good bouncing questions. Anytime I am talking too much, which is almost all the time, feel free to interrupt me and give me some heads up and put in your ideas, because people have heard my ideas. People kind of know who I am and kind of what my standards are as the screen bounces.
Well, I'm really glad that you said that. We have it on tape now. So, but I know that from you. I appreciate your openness and accessibility.
Yeah, we strive to do our best, but I really kind of feel that the industry always needs a boost from all of us. And if I'm the only one boosting, then I kind of feel like I'm getting pushy. So when the profession can be boosted by others, I'm more than willing to hear it. So
I hope we get some questions too today. I like I said, I don't have the bandwidth to be watching comments as well, but you probably have a way younger computer than I do.
Well, this one is the one that I usually use, probably is not. However, I am in a Hilton or a hotel in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the hotel tends to really do well for me. So I'm not too problematic with my bandwidth and all that. Right now I'm actually scrolling down to see if there's the live feed. We already have 9 comments. Yes, people kind of know who I am and kind of what I'm not. Now we're echo. There we go. All right. So with that, we have Donna Cervello says, "Does David know anything about ethics?" Donna Cervello is giving you a good jab. March in Lexington, Kentucky was Corin, and I'm going to be actually down in Lexington next week. So hopefully we can hang out then. Last time you hung out was in DC at a card game. That is correct. Physically, we hung out fairly quickly. And then Zerlin says, "Poof." He's ignoring us. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just having to get everything organized.
You're the wizard right now.
Watches, okay. We got plenty of people watching. Jennifer Curls, Nathan is watching. Well, I guess I am. And then Kimberly Jenkins, good to have you guys all with us. So I want to introduce where we go for our content. That is one of our major pieces that we continue to put on there. We don't go to Facebook specifically for the content, but the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers website is the ncbtmb.org. And just like always, they have great banner ads going by.
They have a brand new looking website, hey?
Isn't it smooth? Yeah, and they have a page
slick.
that actually says what NCBTMB actually means. I love that picture because so many people forget what the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Body Workers is, so it's actually spelled out. The last website actually didn't have it anywhere on the first 5 pages. You actually had to get in to really define out what NCBTMB actually stood for. Going down to the bottom of the page, you find in the About section, you find out about careers and about the NCB, the Code of Ethics, the policies, and the Standards of Practice. So standards of practice are important to know, and that kind of breaks down what you should and shouldn't do piece by piece. Standard 1 was professionalism, and we went over professionalism in so many different ways, so many that it took quite a few months. Legal and ethical requirements was standard 2. We got through that one, and now we're quickly busting through confidentiality. David, can you see this? And
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. And let me get the screen a little bit bigger there. Last week we talked about A and B. This week we're actually talking about C and D. So let's get into this because I really want to kind of dissect C quite strongly. And then D is going to be kind of in my brain, it's a common sense piece, but we'll get there. So C is solicit only information that is relevant to the professional client-therapist relationship. So David, when you think of information that's relevant to the client-therapist relationship, is there anything that pops up that you go, oh, well, definitely this or definitely not that?
Well, the first word that came to my head immediately was scope, and I'm pretty sure a lot of practitioners would probably think the same thing as far as being relevant. But then I thought again, and I'm like, okay, well, relevant is really a unique situation to the client-therapist relationship. So I could be recommending exercise or stretch or even a protocol, as part of informed consent as to what's going to happen in the session or even in the plan. So these are all unique positions for the therapist, I think, to be aware of and adhere to the standard of it must be relevant, because the other part is irrelevancy. Like, are there things that can distract us from an effective client-therapist relationship? So that's scope was the first thing, but I think we could break it down to relevant and irrelevant as a unique proposition.
Yeah, this argument to me really has such a gray section that I see many massage therapists diving too deep into. So FYI, Colette Wilson says hello. She says hi, bros. And we have Michael Moore. I appreciate the thing, you going through this. Hey, Michael, we have no problem doing it. We're glad that you're joining us. And then Jessica Furrer. Hi, Nathan and David. So great to see you guys.
Hi, everybody.
If you guys do have examples of things that have been said in your treatment room, I'm going to go with somewhat appropriate, please. We're trying to hold a PG audience, per se. Feel free to drop that on, and we'll discuss those. I think there's a challenge that massage therapists have when they first start a session, and that is, how's your day going today? How's your day?
Small talk,
Yeah,
like
it's
customer relations and things that have nothing to do really, particularly except moving the relationship forward into the client-therapist relation. Is that what you're talking about?
correct. Well, and that's a start, and there is a therapeutic reason for creating that introduction. But as soon as that introduction and that barrier has been met, and now you're talking about the purpose of the session, the purpose of the hour, the thing that you're doing, the engagement that you have with that client, now you have to actually maintain a discussion that's related to the session instead of a discussion that is related to the weather, related to...
Well, okay, now you might have some practitioners that take that, what we just described as a customer service piece, into a subjective point of view of the state of mind of our client. And an emotional and a mental state of the client can reveal a lot of things about what we as massage therapists and body workers might do, according to this standard especially. I don't know if we're going to be, focusing so much on body work, but I think it's worth saying that interview process might actually go into some notes somewhere. And is that relevant? Like, is that appropriate? And it may be for the type of body work or massage that's going to be done.
So, okay. So if we're talking about, and I'm trying to keep it down specifically as we're talking right now about the weather, about their experience of the day, of things that are going on.
Okay, and what if they just visited their brother in the hospital who is undergoing a procedure tomorrow and he's in prep today?
What if?
How do you consider your interaction with that client, say on an energetic level, or even how that might affect them physically?
Okay. So
do you consider that relevant?
That's the question. That's a huge, in my mind, that's an ugly gray. And so it's not that it's a bad gray area. It's not you're asking them about something deep or forcing them to talk about something that may be deeply emotional and connecting. Oh, I opened Pandora's box here. So you're not getting into this to really delve into their feelings and about opening up their psychology. You're not a psychiatrist. You're not really striving to work in their mind or engage in their mental state.
Yes, thus the open-ended question, which is totally appropriate. The relevancy of their perception of what's going to happen to them, especially if they do or don't want to be touched in the first place, is a great baseline to establish. I think it could be considered relevant. What weight you put on it, especially in comparison to the objectives for the rest of the session, could be something worth talking about too.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start getting into some of these statements here. So Donna Cervello is one of our wonderful friends who really engages. She says, if I am working for a board of directors that has signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, can I share information about a certificant? Certificant has asked me not to share with anyone. Asking for a friend. So this is taking it a whole different direction. But if we're looking at the non-disclosure and the confidentiality with clients, I'm going to take this a little different, Donna. I'm going to take it a different direction slightly in the aspect of you have a client who confides in you something and they ask you not to tell. For example, they've done something they feel very, very guilty about. They feel comfortable with you, and so they're telling you about the larceny that they just committed. what is your responsibility with that?
So wait a minute. Did you just flip this standard?
I flipped it 1,000 different directions.
Yes. Okay.
So Donna flipped it to board specific, so with a non-disclosure. And so instead of looking at standard 3 specifically for confidentiality, we solicit only information that is relevant to the professional and to the client. If I'm soliciting information, so I went the other direction. So if I'm soliciting information about, hey, I've heard that something went on with you this weekend, what's going on, and trying to pry into information or experiences that they've had that week that might be incriminating, prying into things that are maybe none of our business, but you're striving to understand more information. How do we deal with that? Or do we even ask if they've created arson?
Like what you say specifically to enforce the non-disclosure it's a great topic.
But it's off.
A standard answer could be practiced or amongst the board members, be distributed for such occasions. I mean, your client's asking you. I'm not sure if I understand the question entirely, but is the client asking you about board activity because they know you're on the board?
Yeah, no, this goes very many different directions because it's not direct to you're soliciting information from your client, because that's what the subject is on this one, right? Solicit only information that's regarding the therapeutic relationship. So right. I guess even simpler, as a massage therapist, you have another massage therapist as a client. They happen to be on the National Certification Board. Do you ask them what the board of directors is doing right now about this topic or that topic? Or
isn't the session about massage?
It should be.
Is it about what my question is to my client and satiating that need to answer my own question?
But isn't that just building a relationship?
I think talking about work with your client you're risking some, not just confidentiality issues, but you're risking upsetting them if you don't know what their opinion on something is. Let's take another example, like say they work for the the voter registration department in Florida. Okay. All right. So, I mean, do you start talking about what you've been seeing in the news, asking them their confirmation because they're the head of the department and they would have the answers, or at least access to the answers? Do you ask them how to get the answer? Or, I mean, are you there for them? Are they there for you, or are you there for them? I mean, is it relevant?
That's a perfect example where you say, okay, what is your purpose in the topic and the subject that's being presented? If you, and I go right back to, I've got clients who have done day trading. I have clients who have had different businesses and different things that they've done. And if you're asking them about their business, are you asking them because you're concerned about the therapeutic effect on their body? Or are you asking them because, hey, maybe you want to get into day trading? Hey, maybe you want to start doing this. The appropriate relationship in the treatment room should only be with that client.
Yeah.
And
if they talk about it, if they want to talk about it, if they bring it up, if, I have a client I just visited today, and he is the smartest historian, and his commentary on today's news is just amazing. And I can't even compete with him in a lot of arguments, and I relegate myself to being a sounding board for him. simply because I learn a lot through other people's reporting of the news, especially their own opinions. And of course, any report is going to have a view through rose-colored glasses, and their understanding, not the complete truth or the picture or anything. I mean, it's a very unique situation that I get into, and I can't really take a position at that point because I choose to have a therapeutic relationship with their body, not their mind, and the mind, not the brain. Okay, because I could have a therapeutic relationship with their brain. If anybody out there practices craniosacral therapy, you know what I'm saying.
Nice.
But I'm not there to, because I learned with him as well. I actually tried that. I tried to engage him and his need to discuss a particular topic, and my opinion came out, and oh my God, it became ultimately irrelevant because we still have the same therapeutic relationship, because I realized, hey, I'm never going to win.
No.
And it's not because I don't have a valid opinion, and it's not the time nor place in a session. So, I don't think it's a question of whether it's relevant that they give us information. I think it's how we respond to it and what we give them. I think that's what this standard is addressing.
And truth be said, that's all we can really control is our actions and our reactions. We can't force our client to stop talking about that. That's a horrible thing. We're saying something by being aggressive in our communication. I love Zerlin's statement. She says, be very careful. Some clients may be able to talk for a very long time and tell us way more than we need to know just because we asked a too open-ended question. Open-ended questions are those things that are a double-edged sword in so many ways. If you have specific information you're looking for, sometimes asking that is more directly is the best answer, and sometimes it has to go the other direction where you have to get some open-ended aspect to it, so we can kind of connect. Hey, you got a vacuum going, my friend. Jessica Farrell says, how are you physically feeling? Good definition there. What are the highlights of your activity level and activity level that may be helpful for the goals of today's session? So these are guiding terms. So here's what I'm looking for related to this, to make sure that you're all on the same page. Jill Burkana says hello. She's running clinic and reading our lips because she doesn't have headphones in the clinic. Donna says call the cops. Chris Deary says squirrel. And Glendeth Moyle, thank you for joining us. She says you're mixing apples and oranges. We are, but we're trying to pull them apart just as quickly as we're mixing them up. So as things come in, we'll kind of spread them apart a little bit more. But the key piece for me is that when we look at the controls we have and the communication that we have, the questions that we ask, that is the therapeutic guide for the rest of the session. That intake interview is really important to make sure that you're asking relevant questions.
Yeah, this might be a little bit, it's not really off the topic, but it kind of addresses what you're talking about with that opening conversation. How are you today? Okay, it's really general.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something before about, well, what if the client asks you a question, and asks for and expects a direct answer, like, are you married? So, I mean, how relevant is that? And I would like to see maybe later, because I can't see it right now, some suggestions of how to answer that question, directing it back to the client without devaluing their question, without disrespecting their intent, because you hear the question and you could take it literally, figuratively, and you have to be in the moment to understand the nature of it as well. So it could be a totally innocent question. It could be It could be a leading question, but Nathan, how do you answer that question? And I want to hear your honest first answer. What would you say?
First gut answer is yes.
Boom, done.
And I have to say,
you need nothing else?
For me, that is a real easy answer. It's a real simple piece, because where that would be leading in most cases, and the challenges where I see that is if I had to say, no, I'm not. Because then the next question isn't, if you say you're married, generally they go, oh, okay. And if they start asking about, oh, so what does your wife do, or something of that nature, I said, we're here talking about you. We're going to be focusing today's session. I noticed if you could take a nice deep breath. I love that segue to the right or segue to the left. Being able to say, okay, yes, thank you for asking. Yeah, if I can have you take a nice deep breath, I'm noticing that your shoulders are tightening up, or your neck, or whatever I'm working on, focusing it back to that compression or that breath that's working on there. Their questions can be segued back to what the therapeutic purpose is. I would have a harder challenge if I were you. Because in my mind, if I was a single man and someone asked if I was married,
yeah.
My response would have to be, no, I'm not. But that almost always leads to, oh, well, why not? And if you have a transference going on, we got people running through. If you have transference going on, there's several different things that transfers to. If it's a parent-child relation transference, then easily that parent-child transference will be like, oh, I could set you up with my daughter, or I could set you up with this girl, or my niece, or my blah, 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 or my nephew, or blah, 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 blah. Or if it is kind of a sibling type thing, oh, well, why? Oh, yeah, you're having a lot of fun, blah, 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 which still isn't related to the conversation. So being able to draw it right back to the end purpose of getting back to what the session is about.
True, and I'm gonna use that ending as a searchlight on a rocky shore here, because I can tell you, our egos sometimes get in the way of imagining what that answer could be. Okay, because we're so debonair, and we're a lot of people like us, and we think that our clients, every one of our clients, are attracted to us, and we have to fend them off. I can tell you exactly how many times the conversation has gone that way with me, and it's not because I'm single. It's more like
a handsome bugger.
No. It's happened. I can't remember the last time, if it has ever happened. I mean, I don't usually even think of that as an example of. But do you know how many times I thought about answering that question? I mean, we're talking about it right now, and again, I'm going to encourage people to think about what your answer will be. Will it be yes? Will it be no? Even though you may or may not be. I mean, will it be the opposite of what you actually are, in order to dissuade the conversation or the transferences you were saying. And I think you were right on the nose with being honest and confident in whatever the answer is, because that is what's going to determine, especially with new clients, how the rest of your client-therapist relationship goes.
Carrie has a great statement here. She says, you can say, let's focus this session on you. I like a transition, because if you're given a direct question, if you use avoidance, then it'll make a larger question in their mind. Well,
Sure.
How come they're avoiding that? But
That's right.
Being able to be blatant, direct, and honest, even if the situation isn't black and white or isn't clear. If you are going through a divorce, if you have a significant other but there's turmoil or anything else like that, being able to say, I'm bizarrely engaged, or I'm connected to another person, or something that is the truth, and yet then returns you back to, or even It's a difficult answer. Let's get back to you.
Right. And here's another suggestion. If people haven't already mentioned this in the comments or thought of this, I like to segue what's going on in their body with how their environment interacts with them. And that could be a very personal thing for somebody. For example, say their rhomboids hurt. Because a lot of people come in and they go, yeah, I got this knot right here, right underneath my shoulder blade, and I can never get it myself. And that's why I came in for a massage. And when you know that in the initial interview, you could use that anytime during the session. Obviously, mostly when you're working on their back and you're pawing around and you're being inquisitive and changing the subject to what's going on in their body rather than what's going on in their mind. That way, changing the focus from their personal concerns to their therapeutic concerns can be a lot easier as well. In other words, hey, David, are you married? I'll go, no, but this thing in your back is just, I'm so interested in this. I mean, what do you do for a living? Because a lot of times there'll be new clients, or what did you do over the weekend for regular clients? Like, I mean, you could change their mind about expecting an answer because you just gave it and they're already moved on to the next thing, which you're making what's important. So if you want to say, yes, I'm married, and then let them think about their next question about your marriage, you know what I mean? You can, or you can say yes. And how about this, crick in your neck? I need to get in there on both when you're supine and prone. So when I turn you, and just like go down that road of talking to them about the therapeutic relationship rather than your own personal relationship.
Colette Wilson said, and I'm wondering what Colette says here, but her questions that she points out are the questions, once again, coming to the massage therapist, which is the opposite of what the topic is. It's the questions that we ask. And I think the guiding questions of, we're soliciting questions, how are you feeling, how's your day going, just those general questions open up the communication to them feeling like they can also open up general communication to us. But Colette says, are you married? How many kids do you have? Get it all the time. And it's one of those things where, do you really want to be discussing your children, your spouse, your dogs, your cats?
Well, this is the bigger picture too. This is a bigger picture. And I think I understand the nature of Colette's statement or question. And, I live in a town of 2.5 million people, residents, and we have about 1 million visitors every month or more. And a lot of our practices around here are based on transient residency and relationships and business relationships. So, for example, if you work at a big spa on the Strip, people come to this town, by the way, which you stated before, is Las Vegas, and its nickname is what?
Sin of the city, yes.
That is correct. And so when people come here, they think they can transfer all day. Okay, so the transference issues just, oh my God,
pile up.
They think they can come and say and do whatever they want. So there's a special technique. There's a class, I think, somewhere, for massage therapists on the daily, how to handle not taking things personally, not interacting on a personal level. But then you have a very well meshed together community of people that when you create a reputation amongst them, you're going to be really busy because people are going to respect and appreciate you. And the second part, the appreciation, is that I think, if I get Colette's intention with it, is I'm not asking you to be nosy. Okay, they may be, but I'm not asking you to stalk you. I'm not going to attack you when you leave your office, for example. I'm not trying to hit on you. I'm not trying to find a date through my therapist. I just want to know something about you. And I think if you put that off to a degree or in a certain way, you can come off as very cold and impersonal, which is not what people, I think, imagine massage therapists to be. So the happy medium is not using the word relevant or irrelevant in determining how you interact with your client.
So I get that. I understand that. However, when we're talking about the questions that we ask, a lot of times the questions that the client brings back to us are tools for them to feel more comfortable. Because if you're in a room and your experience, I mean, once again, as I say, in the United States, our culture doesn't have any other real environment where getting naked and laying on a table and having someone touch your entire body is a normal thing. And so we have to try and use tools that we have, communication, transference, there's several things there to try and make that a comfortable setting. And so when you're uncomfortable, great example, I don't remember what movie it was, but a guy, the main character, was going to the proctologist. And he went into the doctor, and the doctor's just going to do a probe to check out anal fissures or something. And he's making small talk with the doctor just so that he can start feeling comfortable, because it's so uncomfortable to think, well, what's going to be happening right now? Well, I have to avoid what's happening by asking questions that don't relate to what's going on right here. And I think that's happening for massage therapists regularly. Instead of, one of the best tools for that is massage therapists to feel very comfortable talking about the therapeutic relationship, talking about what's going on, talking about the conditions, having the terminology that's appropriate and being able to explain the terminology. I have a lot less clients who start asking deep questions if I simply start talking to them about their condition and start figuring out where things are at and saying, okay, so you're going to be doing that left rotation. Let me just check in on each level of the neck so I can figure out which muscles are too tight and which ones are stretched out so that we can work in a better, safer way. Donna says she has a regular client that she refuses to ask, how are you doing today? Because she will tell me how she was to get into serious details, and I think I need to know. Such a simple question can solicit special answers. You can't open up a large can of worms with an open-ended introduction question.
Well, no. I don't want to disagree with that, because I think that's true, but that people are different. And, I like Donna's example of somebody who'll give you like this really detailed answer that you're not prepared or even want to dive into, but that is their nature. I often ask, so how was your weekend? And they proceed to tell me minute by minute what happened. And I'm like, that's cool. That's awesome. And especially when it's something that they enjoy doing, I verbally or energetically pat them on the back and go, great job, or, something like that. And not everybody has to do that. I'm not saying that that's a method of dealing with irrelevant information to the therapeutic relationship, but like the nervous part, like you're going to be going, And I also want to add that I think there are a lot of practitioners out there, massage therapists, that are very empathic, and they feel like they need to respond. And I like your idea of using specific terminology, especially in situations that are predictable. Are you married? Is that the predictable answer is either yes or no. And you can manage how you perceive that whole situation and the ending of it, in my opinion. I mean, if you practice what you're going to say and how you're going to say it in order to move it back to relevancy towards a therapeutic relationship. So, but the empathic practitioners they have the toughest time with this thing right here, is keeping it relevant. I mean, I've had troubles myself in the past. I'm like, somebody tells me about something that I'm also interested in, and they're getting very passionate about it. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like forgetting what I'm doing inside their body. And I have to like reel myself in.
Refocus yourself. You'll love
exactly.
actually Jill Bracano's response. You'll agree with this. I don't doubt. Some clients release stress by talking about their life. I see nothing wrong with that. The therapist says, wow, really? That sounds interesting. Wow, really? Are you engaging and allowing them to decrease some of their stress just simply by going on about things that don't, is it affecting your session? Well, if you're not letting it affect your session, then it's them allowing to de-stress. Desiree says, I think a lot of times this is a way to find some common ground with the therapist. It's a source of comfort.
Yeah, it's a trust building practice in a way, and we're kind of hanging on to this initial interview, the idea that these conversations will come out of this because you're going to create a rapport with your clients. I don't care what basic massage program you went to, that is like the number one thing that you need to do with your client within 3 seconds of meeting them is create the beginnings of a long-term relationship. That's what I would coach anyway, and sometimes you have to answer personal questions. Just as simple, doctors have to do it, lawyers have to do it, but they always bring it back to what the therapeutic value of answering that question is. And here's another point that may or may not have been mentioned already in the chat room or here even touched on is if you fail to answer that question because you feel offended and you're not willing yourself to be vulnerable, how can we expect them to be vulnerable and answer our questions when it is therapeutically relevant? Like, so what do you do for a living? Well, if they don't tell you what they do for a living, it's going to be much more difficult to assess them, in my opinion.
Oh, see, and I'm mixed on this because when we're looking at the professional relationship that you have with a client, obviously they know what you do for a living. That's an easy answer. But when you're asking them, actually, hold on. Haley Stample says, what do you do for a living? How to redirect, rephrase, and question and rephrase the question to understand what's static. Sorry, I have to get it closer so I can actually read it. What static positions, repetitive actions among the eye strain, and the level of stress their day is, not concerning about how they work or who they work for, how much money they make. That is a good viable reason to ask questions like, where do you work?
Totally.
What do you do?
Yeah, and you have to tell them that's why you're asking them as well, so that maybe because clients will ask me, hey, don't your arms get tired? And I totally love that question because we've answered it a million times, right? Don't your fingers get tired? No. I'll tell you why my low back gets more tired. And, you go into a physiological, mechanical explanation of that, and they totally respect any question you have about their work because they know you're analyzing them in the same way. Are you married? Well, what kind of time do you have that you devote to massage? Do you get does your spouse get regular massage or your partner get regular massage? These are the kinds of questions I would be asking to pursue and actually turn around that table on, am I married myself?
Yep.
I don't know. There's ways to change it, make it relevant. Not just to your business, you don't want another client, that's not why you're asking the question, but what is their value of massage? When was your last massage is a good one. How do they value massage? Will they listen? Will they take home those exercises you gave them because of this repetitive motion injury that you're treating?
Yeah, so Chris Dury says, all these questions can open cans everywhere. And that is true. However, I don't think our concern is about the opening of cans. It's what we do with the cans once they're open.
Okay, let's make a list of questions because the standard that we're looking at, just to remind everybody, is standard 3.
Let me show it here. And I need to click that off too so you guys can see it better. Hold on. There we go. 3C. Solicit only information that is relevant to the professional client-therapist relationship.
Right.
So
So we're not talking about the money-making part of the client-therapist relationship or the business end. We're talking about the professional
well,
relationship.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know. Are you going to pay with cash or card? That's a question that deals with the money in some ways.
that's true. That's very true.
And you have to deal with that as a business owner. But all things that are related to the client-therapist relationship.
Okay, I'm thinking more of like, it doesn't even say therapeutic relationship, does it?
It says client/therapist relationship.
Yes, professional. So it could include doing business with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, well, let's take the therapeutic relationship first, the one where we're doing the assessment, the intake form. Let's look at the intake form for a second. Like, what questions do you not ask on the intake form because they're irrelevant?
So I've changed an answer to how I would answer this from the past. Gender, sex. Initially, I used to think that it was important to know that. And I've gotten to a point now that it doesn't matter, because I'm going to treat a male, female, hermaphrodite, cross, trans the exact same way, because they're a human in a human body.
You are absolutely correct. However, is it? Oh, damn. Okay, I just answered my own question.
It doesn't change the way I work with them. It's not.
Okay, wait. No, that's not where I was going. That's not where I was going. I'm going to how do you market to them? And I'm sitting here in a traditional marketing mode going, okay, males will respond to these images, females respond to these images. Males will respond to these words, females respond to these words. Well, what about Father's Day? What about Mother's Day? What about, typically gender specific holidays or oh, wait a minute. What about ovarian cancer? Do I need to know that my clients are female in order to get the information out there? And you're answering my question. Thank you, by the way, for bringing this up, because no, can't everybody benefit from, abdominal or visceral massage for ovarian cyst prevention or, management of symptoms, pain symptoms? Yeah. I mean, everybody can.
And most transgender, hermaphrodite, all of the terms that are there live in a society that has genders. They just may not associate with those genders.
Oh, dude.
Personally. And so Mother's Day, Father's Day, yeah, there are going to be people who don't like Mother's Day and Father's Day because they had a bad mother or a bad father. But that's not the aspect that they connect with in their own personal experience. Asexual people, I mean, it's not a thing. It's just not something that they participate in. It's like saying, if you have an atheist, you should never bring up religion. Well, no, they live in a world that has religion. It's like saying you should never bring up fiction if someone doesn't read fiction. It's not a thing. You just connect with them in that person. This is a one-on-one relationship. And that intake interview is a time when you're working with them no matter who they are or what they are.
So I'm really interested to see how many people now believe that gender or sex, because obviously they're two different things. The sex of a person is based on a physical, and a gender is a ideological, I believe, what you identify with. So that's more mind-based.
Yeah, so
rather than
let us know.
So I'm interested to see things they're marketing based on. It doesn't really matter what their sex is. But you're going to get a marketer out there that says, well, yes, this is a culture that has very sex-based advertising. Look at the product development of deodorants, for example. It's the same exact ingredients in two different containers.
One's pink, one's blue.
That's right. And maybe different scents because, I want a sports scent and my girlfriend wants a powder scent. That's the difference.
So, and I think there, in my mind, if you really needed to know someone's gender, you would have two separate intake forms. Because how many times do I go through an intake form and it says, "Are you pregnant?"
Well, men can answer that no.
Yeah, but it doesn't even matter, because it's just that statement of, well, you've already said you're male. Does that even matter? If you take the gender or sex off the whole piece, as a massage therapist, if that's not going to change, it does matter if we know if they are actually currently pregnant, no matter what they associate themselves as.
So you would still answer, you still ask the question, you would still solicit the information, as we're discussing, whether they are pregnant or not, regardless of sex, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I got distracted. One more time. Go ahead.
Are you saying that you would still ask the question, are you pregnant?
Yeah.
Regardless of the person's sex that is filling it out?
Correct.
Okay, I agree with that. Because, guys laugh when they get to that question, and I'm like, you're not pregnant, are you? Because if you are, I need to know you. I need to be in your will, because you're going to be like the most famous human being born,
Yep. So Zerlin has chastised me for talking about sex so much on ethics podcasts. However, she once again says, "Why are you guys so focused on sex?" Capital SEX. We took sex gender off our intake form years ago. Awesome.
Excellent.
It's one
way
thing
ahead of
that,
the curve.
Yeah, we don't. I wish I saw that more, because you're right, Zerlin. It's not an issue. Jemima,
and we hope it's, yeah.
Jemima says, World Health Organization defines sex refers to the biological and physiological characteristics that define men and women. Gender refers to the social constructed role, behavior, activities, roles, activities behind, attributed to the behavior for men and women.
Thank you for the clarification, so that we're on the right track with that.
But
yeah,
we just because if you put gender, you should have a blank. But I don't know why you need to have gender as a massage therapist. How is that going to change the protocol with which you act as a massage therapist? I can't think of any.
Sorry, hold on.
You're in a vacuum.
Oh,
You there?
I'm sorry. I'm here.
Okay.
I just missed everything you just said. Sorry, my headset cut off. Hey, we're at 7:05, dude.
Yeah, we started at 10 after.
I know. We're like almost out of time.
Okay. Colette says, for females, are you pregnant? In my case, nothing to be confused about. So, yeah, I mean, we have so many different options that we connect with. And for many women, it doesn't matter if you're asking if they're pregnant, because they're not, because either they went through menopause or whatever conditions there are.
Yep.
Well, with that 5-minute deadline that you brought up, we do have one more to go over, Standard 3D. Standard 3D, I consider it a no-brainer, but it's mostly because I've spent most of my professional career in the clinical side of massage therapy, and I've kind of followed the clinical roles with medical centers. But 3D says, securely retain clients' files for a minimum period of 4 years for from the termination of the therapeutic relationship.
Can we do E today too? Is that a big deal?
Oh man, you're gonna throw me.
Semicolon. It's semicolon. Yeah. Look at that.
They're all semicoloned.
Oh darn it! But it says and. Oh, never mind. Okay.
And they all say something to collect this. Yeah. This is, you know what? I may hit it a little bit tomorrow. And dispose of clients' files, or next week, in a secure manner.
All
Okay.
right.
So
Let's just do that next time.
Let's toss it in.
D and E.
It's good. So yes, C, D, and E. So when we're looking at this aspect of 4 years, why do you think, David, that it's a 4-year from the termination of the therapeutic relationship?
I'll bet you there's some regulatory reason for that recommendation. And this is a standard that the profession is being held accountable for. So it's got to have something to do with healthcare or medical reasons. I would think that it's not just from a customer service standpoint that you would keep them in general, like forever, or a confidentiality issue, like what do you do with them after? It says dispose in E. I'm sorry, I'm like reaching into the next one.
Good,
but,
go for it.
Termination of from the termination. So, wow, if they want a copy of their record, and you know what I mean, and they mail for it, you got to give it some time. I'm sure there's a time frame in there which you have to respond professionally to their request. If another healthcare provider asks for it, and are you responsible for that? It doesn't say anything in here about that, about communicating to other healthcare providers, except with a written consent from your client. And again, that takes time, but it won't take 4 years but that's the time of termination. So, I mean,
actually, so the piece that you're looking at actually came last week, and doggone it, here we go.
4 years.
Yeah. So protect the interests of the client who's a minor, and then protect the confidentiality of the client's identity from information unless, hold on.
Where are you going? You asked me, why is it 4 years?
Yeah, and then you went into the client signs something. Unless disclosure of identifiable information is requested by the client in writing, is medically necessary, or is required by law.
So those the 4 years is based on the law. If there was a court case 3 years from now, we should have records based on this standard.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, and what does securely retained mean? Like, my practice is to, in a HIPAA compliant environment of the cloud, scan and retain my clients' files. I also have I'm a little old fashioned. I keep the paper version that they signed, but I also now have only online signatures for my clients' intake forms. So there's like several different modes of how you can get somebody's signature that is considered legal. And actually, in courts of law, just typing your name in an electronic form is considered a legal signature. It's really weird. I don't know what you're agreeing to, like if your IP address is recorded in the date and time, et cetera, et cetera. Is it your computer? Are you logged into a service that you confirm your identity with somehow? Like I did that with Facebook recently. I'm not running any political ads, but I uploaded a copy of my ID because I wanted them to identify or confirm that it was me, and at any time that they could look at me and say, that's him, because his state issued ID or whatever has been uploaded. It's just, it could be a very weak layer, but I think the identity thing is really important with online transactions. I think HIPAA compliant, especially explicitly HIPAA compliant servers are a good way to retain client files, even for a long period of time.
So I have to go back real quick. Colette said, I didn't say that. So I'm going to go back. For females, are you pregnant? On my intake, in brackets, nothing to be confused about, is what she wrote. So it does reduce the confusion of their sexual, other sex it may not improve confusion about gender. So
Correct.
that going over. Dan says, in New York State, you must have records for up to 7 years after treatment before being allowed to destroy them. And that's the medical system standard, including the medical system standard, which isn't just 7 years, but if you have a minor, it's 7 years after they become an adult. So if you work on an 8-year-old, you have to hold on to their records for 17 years if you don't see them after they're 8. You have to hold on to all records until they're an adult and 7 years after.
Wow. So it does depend on which jurisdiction in which you practice, what laws you need to follow. And these standards are what we subscribe to as certificates, especially. I mean, I know not everybody's a NCB certificate here, okay? I do understand that, but the reason that we're talking about these is because this is sort of a professional standard that we've all learned. And I think in schools, you know, in massage therapy programs, people are taught these things, if I'm not mistaken. Whether they're going to be certified or not, these are kind of baseline professional practices.
And
so
I think
4 is the minimum according to NCB, but there could be requirements in the jurisdiction in which you practice, or a license, any jurisdiction, business or professional.
Gwyneth Moyle says, several years ago, I had a attorney's office call and ask for my notes, insurance claim from 7 years previous. Yeah. So in the state of Oregon, it's the same way. It's that 7-year standard to say, if you're dealing with insurance, the medical industry requires a 7-year standard. NCB has that set at 4 years because not all NCB approved providers are actually insurance industry focused. You could work in a spa, you could work in many different settings that are not considered clinically focused.
Totally.
So, yeah.
And your notes they hold the same weight, whether it's for a medical reason or for a recreational reason that the massage was given. I mean, the privacy of that therapeutic relationship is worth all the notes you can take.
Correct. Now, you actually brought up something before we started. We were talking about this, and you said, well, what happens if your business burns down? What happens if all of your files get burnt, or you have them securely on the internet and a hacker comes in and destroys all of your files?
I would say as well that you should have a police report or a fire report and have a claim in with your insurance company notating the fact that client files were included in the loss, just to protect yourself. But I don't know what to do other than that. I mean, can you make copies? I mean, like I said, I scan my files, so I have a hard copy and a soft copy. So I do have evidence of it. I just don't have the original anymore.
Yeah, I've always been told that you need to have a copy and a backup copy, if it's digital or not. And if you I know I should trust technology more, but when it comes down to if you're doing things on the internet, if you have a soap note company or a schedule company that you keep your documents on their website, I would always want to have my own personal backup copy on a flash drive, on a hard drive.
Yep.
Something that's independent from, something that you can take away from the computer and hold independent so that it can go to any other place and have it backed up regularly.
I mean, putting it in your fireproof safe is a really good practice as well.
Absolutely.
They're important documents.
I used to work at an office where the back door got broken in, and someone broke into the back door, grabbed the safe, and ran. And in the safe, this was obviously years ago, but the hard disks, or the floppy disks, the hard floppy disks, they had 8 hard floppy disks, which were the backup. So they'd feed the floppy disks in, and they would back up those on the disks and put it into the safe. And according to HIPAA law, she had to disclose to all of her clients that those records were stolen and that they might be compromised because there was a certain number, because she was dealing with insurance, because she was dealing with those things. That is the piece that you always have to be connected with. You always have to be sure that you're connected appropriately. Dan says, technology, I believe digital copies are now required or will be soon.
So HIPAA, by the way, HIPAA is still not requiring the profession of massage therapy or their practitioners themselves as independent healthcare providers. Okay, if your state so designates massage therapy, they're still not requiring massage therapists to be on board. However, if you are a business associate, there is an agreement that you must have on file with any healthcare provider listed as such if you are working with their in tandem with their patients. So there are requirements, and this is a really relevant conversation, by the way. But we're being the ideal and the epitome of the profession of confidentiality.
So here's the other side of it, in my mind. So you have a client, you haven't seen them for NCB's case for 4 years, but for HIPAA, 7 years. You haven't seen them for 7 years. You have a digital backup. Now you've not seen them for 10 years, and your file gets stolen. You still have their data on your backup data. When it was paper, you took it out and you shredded it, and that was it. Now that it's digital, it's just bits. It's nanobits. It's
ones and zeros.
Yeah, it's ones and zeros. And so it doesn't take up much space. So you just kind of say, oh, it's going to be okay. I can fit 10 billion clients on my flash drive and we're fine. But are you liable to that person who you saw 10 years ago?
Yes. If
that is stolen, and can they come after you for not destroying the information after the 7 years?
I would say yes. I mean, there is a fear out there, and I tend not to join the digital clubs because of the nature of the information that I put in there. Because there's so many breaches all the time. I get a report daily from a service that I use, and it's just amazing how many of them have millions, tens of millions of customers that have their information, and some of them are multiple, like the same customer over multiple companies. And I'm like, I don't want to be in that position. And they have to say something, and they're not under HIPAA regulations. You know, this is a responsibility of a company to say, hey, your personally identifiable information, right, PII, has been compromised, and if I ever collected your social security number for any reason, they need to know what's coming down the pike.
Yep.
Because you're gonna have that one client that's never joined an electronic shopping club or an app or get a newsletter with their email address, that, you know, their email address is now being sold on the darknet along with their password. By the way, if you don't have that report on your credit report, you need to start getting it. Because knowing that it's out there is half the battle. Being able to protect yourself because you know it's out there is our responsibility if it's breached. I mean, Some things can't be helped, but you got to do your part, I think, as the holder of the information originally.
Yeah, and Gleneth Moyle says maybe it's time for NCB code to be updated to reflect the new digital age. You know, I know they continue to update it and revisit it. I know they did just recently. This one for them says 4 years specifically because not all NCB approved providers, once again, are not all board certified massage therapists are dealing with HIPAA. So I think 4 years for a spa makes sense. And if you're not dealing with the clinical aspect, then you wouldn't have to abide by those pieces, but you'd at least follow the 4 year guideline. David, we are out of time, and we could chat about this for a lot longer. However, I'm pretty sure we would bore our audience to tears. So thank you guys for joining us. We are done nitpicking on everything. It looks like 9 of you hung out with us. Thank you for being with us. If you have any questions, you can email me, Nathan at educatedtouch.com. David's always available and happy when he's not running around like a chicken with his head cut off, working on awesome clients. But he can be reached as well. David, you want to share how to reach you?
David at handsinmotion.info or David at educatedtouch.com.
Perfect.
Because I'm an approved instructor under Educated Touch.
And Educated Touch is so happy to have him.
Lucky.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your day.
It was nice to meet you, David Otto. Thank you, Nathan. The hour has flown by. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Ethics Outside the Box. As you've seen, Nathan uses many second-hand stories of ethical situations. If you'd like to share your story or you have any questions, feel free to contact him and Nathan at educatedtouch.com. If you'd like to register for next week's live webinar, go to shop.educatedtouch.com. Under live webinars, you will see all upcoming webinars. If you have just watched this video and would like continuing education for home study, you can go to shop.educatedtouch.com under the home study options with the date or episode number to receive your exam. If you would please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we will keep you up to date on new videos. If you'd like to attend one of our live courses, you can find upcoming scheduled events at www.educatedtouch.com. Thank you for joining us today. Be well and have an ethical day.
Live from Cincinnati, Ohio, and Las Vegas, Nevada.